Canada coming up later this month is something that you'll probably want to start to prepare for next week, since we kind of already know what the decision's going to be, right? You guys can hear me okay, hey? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so because you already know what the decision is likely going to be, it's always a good idea to do it in advance. And then my tip when the decision is really close, I tend to make 2 of them is kind of like my preference. So let me just open this and share my screen. The last Bank of Canada, we decided we would start sending a copy of the newsletter. So you can kind of expect that a few days before. But it's still a good idea to know how to do it in case you want to do an update yourself, right? So just so you guys know, Instagram Live is on. So they can't see much of you, but put your pretty faces on. So to find the marketing, there's a couple different ways to do it, but I like to work out of the marketing section. And from here, you can go to emails and you can see all the templates that I've already created for you guys. So from here, there's tons. A lot of these leads to post-closing are tied to those Finmo type automations or to those pipelines anyways. But that's not to say you can't edit them, because there's a folder that says that you can edit those ones specifically. However, there's a ton more in here. You can see I have one for newsletters. I've got one for weekly videos for those who like to do like their Friday videos. Templates has a bunch as well. Like we obviously, if you're with our CRM, send out the happy birthdays, but there's templates and things like that for as well. So things I used to do when I was still brokering was send out like quarterly and monthly updates for CREA Stats, so Canadian Real Estate Association. Once a month, they always come out with different statistics within Canada, and you can even own in on your location too, which is really cool. But even the quarterly, let's see the monthly here. So as soon as you want to create a campaign, it's as easy as creating campaign, but I'll show you guys how to go in this as well. You just click on the campaign itself.
Sarah, are you sharing your screen? I am on my iPad, so maybe I can't see it.
No, I think you're right. One second. Why didn't anybody else say anything? You guys.
I kept hearing the word here, and I'm like, here.
What is she talking about? Okay.
Should I have mine open? Okay.
Take 2. You guys ready? How's this look? Better?
Much better.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly, for being honest with me. Okay, guys. So where I went was marketing on this side. And then from here, you can go to emails. Campaign is really like if you've already sent something, a campaign will live there. And I'll show you guys that in a sec. But let's start in templates. And templates is where I was just saying, if you guys could have seen, that there's hundreds of templates for you guys already. Okay, so you can see templates, leads to post-closing really is like Finmo automations here and different emails that tag along with those automations, but you can still edit them. Cross-sells, there's all sorts of things in here for life insurance, solicitor follow-up, life insurance and disability. That's something we talked about last week with Kelly's tech tip on how to automate like your life insurance referrals and your home insurance. So, but a newsletter itself isn't really something, yes, you can automate in the sense where you're going to send it out once a month, but a newsletter technically needs to be updated. There needs to be new news in it for it to be exciting. We need to usually talk about the Bank of Canada, some sort of hook, perhaps like a scenario where you saved your client money on a renewal or a penalty or something like that. So that's really what a newsletter is about. So it's not really something we want to automate. So if you go into the newsletter section, you can see I have a ton that are pre-written for you. So some of them are due with like, you know, and where Kelly and I are, there's lots of fires. So a good newsletter to send out in the spring is to remind people that, you know, the fire season is coming, and to make sure that you have your house insurance ready when you're buying a house and that kind of stuff, because it can really delay the process. Okay, so that would be an example of that one. The Bank of Canada is something that we sent out last time on the 11th, so you can expect that going forward. We'll send it anywhere between a week to let's say 3 days out, and you guys will always get notified. It'll come in an email and it's a link you can click, and that link will import it into your account. So this is what the last one looked like. It always looks a little bit funny when it's in the builder section, and you know you're in the builder by looking at this like wrench here. And then this is the desktop view and the mobile view. Well, because we're building this for so many people, we use what's called custom values, which is why you can't see an image here. But if you go on preview in your account, you'll be able to see like, okay, it pulled in my colors. This should be like your call to action color. The background would be a color you provided us on your onboarding, that kind of stuff. So we talked a lot about the Bank of Canada. It would have pulled in the month and the day. And then we talked about the rate drop. This link would go click to either your Finmo or to your email. And then December 15th changes. As you guys know, we had lots of changes last year. Lots of really easy things to talk about in newsletters, right? And then a client success story is always good to talk about, you know, again, money saving tips or things like that. And I do encourage, it's a bit of extra work, but a local business spotlight. And the reason I suggest that is because if you call, let's say, a local restaurant or somebody that you know that owns another business, and you feature them in your newsletter, they're likely to now share that with their database too, or at least share it to their Facebook or Instagram. So it's an easy way to get like a little bit more reach. And then ensure you obviously add them as a contact to your database so that they get a copy as well, right? And then hopefully maybe even convert them in the future. So this rate section here is a little bit tricky, and we'll go through it today because I think it's important. If you don't like to show off rates, that's totally fine. You can actually like delete this whole section. So when we go down here, it's kind of hard to see in the builder, but you can delete, see the garbage can. If you're like, hey, Sarah, I really don't want to talk rates, then you just delete that whole section. So from here, we talk about market interest rates and kind of trends. And it's a good idea to just update this section to talk about like, are rates going up, you know, as of the day that you're sending this out? Are they going down? Obviously trying to press some urgency into your contacts and your database is always good because people love talking about rates, right? That's one of the hooks we use a lot with realtors is like, oh, rates have changed. We don't say if they're going up or down, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call from them, right? So rates is always a good one I like to have. And then I just put prime rate. And then promo rate is anything from, this really depends on you and your brokerage, of course. But for example, there was that 3.99% for a while from, I can't remember. It was like a 6-month promo. So instead of writing a 3-year fixed or 5-year fixed, I put the 3.99 and I put promo rate. And that alone actually got me a lot of responses because people were like, what's a promo rate? Why the 3.99? What's the catch, right? So I didn't really give away all the details. I put the promo rate and kind of encouraged them to basically contact me back. Now, I'm personally, as a broker, not a believer in the 6 months convertibles. However, it's still a great conversation starter. I was able to explain to them like, yes, this is a product that's available in the market. I do have access to it. However, it's, you know, probably not a good fit for your client because of X, Y, Z. However, I'd love to talk to them. Boom. Now you've got a conversation with the realtor, a potential client to talk to. And then honestly, realtors actually quite like the 6-month promos. So it's something just good to talk to them about. And then obviously having your traditional 5-year fixed here and a 5-year variable is always good. So while we're in this section, I'm going to show you guys how to update it because it's really tricky. I have like a little bit of a hint that in the new year, we'll be able to make this automatic, but I'm not going to give, or not new year, in like a month or so. I'm not going to give a timeline that's concrete, but it'd be nice if we were like, okay, we can actually pull this from maybe Lender Spotlight or something and automate the rates that you choose to see in here. It'd be really cool. So from here, you still have to do it manually, but because you're only sending out a newsletter probably once a month, I think it's totally worth it. So we're going to go back to the builder right here. And when you click on here, so let's just say we know prime rate is going to change, right? So if you click onto the rate, so now again, you're in this builder section. You can see that we've actually added code to this newsletter to make it look the way that it does. This is the only section that has this. So don't be overwhelmed. You're like, Sarah, I don't know how to code. This is crazy. It's actually not. There's only one spot that you need to update in here, and you'll know where it is because it says the prime rate in it. So it says 5.45. So now you can drop that to 4.95, right? As soon as you hit save, then it will update it. So that's what you'll do for the rest of the rates until we're able to pull them from somewhere automatic. But then let's say you wanted to change that to your 399, you'd just update that. So you kind of go through, you click and you scroll through and you're like, this is all gibberish to me, Sarah. What are you talking about? And then all of a sudden you see your 4.34 and you go, that looks familiar. And then you can change that to whatever you want, right? Maybe you have a special promo from a local lender, a local credit union that you want to show off, then definitely put it in there, right? So these lock-in rates, they actually all go to your Finmo application that you provided us when you got signed up. So a lot of these links, which we call call to actions, are actually they know where they're going. So here we're saying that we want this to go to your website. We want this to go to, perhaps it's sometimes if you wanted to go to a CREA stat or something like that. So you would click, if it doesn't go to your website and you wanted to go to a different website, let's say you're talking about CREA stats or somewhere else that you want to reference an article, you click on the button and you can see it says links to URL. And then you would just copy paste the URL there, okay? And you can change the button text here to whatever you want. You can change the colors. Anytime you see something like this that says custom values, that's because when you got onboarded with us, you gave me a color that you were like, hey, I want this to be this color. I want my background to be light blue. That's why you'll see custom values, because now all of a sudden, when we imported all of your branding, it would change the backgrounds and stuff like this. So if you're ever going through something and you're like, that's weird, there's no color, or this, this button, it's not going to be purple in your account if you gave me the color blue, because our team would have changed it for you. So anytime you see something that says that, we've changed it for you, but you can always change it yourself. Let's say you're like, hey, the color I chose is awful. You would just click on the button and you can see here the background color. I'm just going to copy this before I delete it. You go in here and you just pick what you want it to be. So the builder is actually very, very easy to use, and you get used to it with time. And the beauty of having, this one that's already pre-built for you is you're just going to update a few sections and then hit send, right? After a while, you're not really updating the whole thing, but it's easier and easier to use, because the first time you'll probably fumble through editing some stuff, but then after that, it really is as easy as, deleting what you want to write and writing it. So that's that. Show you a couple other things here. Matt, I'll answer your question in a second. So here's where I would suggest a change. So a good one would maybe be like for the next one, obviously we'll talk about the Bank of Canada change again, but something I was thinking about is probably the new capital gains rules that just got implemented would be a good thing for a change. Client success story, again, is always about, money saving, bought 2 houses with, 1 down payment because they thought, some kind of cool story that they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know that. Local spotlight. Because there's 2 here, don't be confused. It's just because you're in the builder. It's because one shows on desktop and one shows on mobile. So it's not like it's going to be duplicate when you go to send it. Then there's your rate section. News and trends, just so you guys know where I find them, is typically CREA stats, or as most of us already know what the mortgage updates are, but I like to find CREA, which is Canadian Real Estate Association, statistics to add to the real estate section. Because for me, a lot of my database is realtors. And then the very last section here is just a footer. So we've already collected your Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff links, and your logos and whatnot. So this is kind of what it looks like when it's done. And then I always suggest to test it to yourself. So if you're trying this for the first time and you're like, I don't want to send this to my whole database without seeing it, you would click these 3 dots, hit the test email, And then from here, you would change like, who is this from? And then here, I usually like to put like My Broker Pro, because that's what the sender name is in the inbox. Who are you sending the test to? The preview text is not the subject. I find these two to be backwards. The subject is what you guys are used to seeing in that very first line for your subject email address. The preview text is like the very first, like if I show you guys this Grammarly one, only $75 a year. That's a subject, and Start 2025 Strong, that's a preview text. Okay, so that's where it's important to have a good hook and a good, where were we, test email, a good subject line and a good preview text, because these are the two sections that really do increase your open rate. Because if you have a really bad hook for your subject line, you're decreasing your chances of people opening them or thinking they're spam. So good subject lines would be maybe something about Bank of Canada, but also I saved my client $50, $200 by doing this. And you don't tell them what it is. That's a good hook. And then you kind of go from there. When you send test email, it'll go to your inbox and you can review it. So before we go to the next step, Matt, what was your question?
Yeah, so, or you're probably going to show this anyways. So I guess the question is once we send this out, so I'm used to using MailChimp, and so we know
Yep.
open rates and things like that, analytics.
Yep.
Now, I'm assuming there's fancier stuff in your system where it actually turns into something. Because like in MailChimp, it's just like, I go through it and I see like which realtors open my email.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
I don't know about fancier stuff, but I could show you what what happens next. So now you've built your, let me remember to share my screen again. You've built the newsletter, you're happy with it, you've tested it, which is very important in my opinion, because trust me, there's the anxiety is real when you realize you've hit send and you go, oh my God, I made a mistake. So just be sure to test, okay? So now we're going to exit this campaign and we're going to, I don't know if I have any launched campaigns. I don't. So what we're going to do is we're just going to we'll launch that one. Okay, so you go, let's pretend this is the next Bank of Canada one. We've updated it. It's ready to go. You'd hit these three dots and go create campaign. Once you have one campaign, you can go in and duplicate them. So it's super, super easy from there. But so now it's basically asking us, do you want to edit it again? So you 100% can. You can see the builder. I didn't really show you these tools earlier, but the little plus sign will allow you to drag and drop text, drag and drop images, videos. Frequently asked questions, I think, looks really pretty because it's like the actual drop downs. Countdowns, if you really wanted to like have a sense of urgency, like this interest rate is disappearing in 10 hours or something fun. That's what that is. And then these here are layouts. So this means like the one actually means one across, kind of like this image. Two means you're splitting the screen up in two, 1, 2. Okay, so this is what the layouts represent. And again, we've kind of done the hard work in getting the layout to look good for you, but it's still a good idea to know what to do. Okay, so now we're happy with it. We're ready to send it to our database. Okay. You guys are disappearing on me. There you go. Send and schedule. So you have a couple options. You can see a preview of your email here, but to be honest, you guys just saw it. It's not a very good preview because we're using all those custom values. So it's not really picking up the right colors, but you've already tested your email, so you know it's good. Send now means obviously once you're done this section, you're going to send now. Schedule means, okay, if it was the Bank of Canada, what we do for some clients, like let's say the most recent change, we had a very strong hunch it was going to be the 0.5 drop. So what we did is we scheduled it for 10 minutes after the announcement was made. And then I knew in my brain if the announcement was different than what my newsletter was, I was going to rush in and change it for my client, right? But if you not, then she actually got great feedback because her realtors were like, wow, you sent this out like minutes after it was done. It was because she didn't have to build the build it before she was waiting for the response. She was proactive and had it in the inbox ready to go, right? And that's what's important when you're really not sure what the decision's going to be. It's very important to have those two newsletters ready, because now imagine it's going to take you an hour to get that newsletter ready after the Bank of Canada is done. Now you're not really the first to message your database. The Bank of Canada is kind of old news by the time you get around to it, right? So this one, schedule at, you'd pick the date. I don't, is that, what's the Bank of Canada? Is the 29th, I think. Eh? And then you'd pick the time. You can adjust the time as well. And then sender email is obviously going to be from you. Sender name, again, I like to kind of add my name and my business number there, subject line, and the preview text. These little tags allow you to add the contact's first name, last name, or usually first name is what we do, right? Sarah, I saved my client $5,200. This is how. The only thing we recommend is if you know your database doesn't have first names in it, like maybe you have a lot of phone numbers from a Facebook ad or something like that where your contacts aren't fully detailed, try to avoid using the first name, because it'll just end up looking like there'll be a comma and then the preview text. Okay. So from there, you can choose your contacts, send to a smart list. A smart list is if you've already pre-organized, let's say realtors. Choose from tags. Maybe you have like a tag on certain clients you want to send an email to. Maybe you have a tag for like variable rate clients or something like that, right? So when you choose contacts, you would go into here and you can select them all. But then there's also a button here called select all, which is very important. So for me, this is my dummy account, so there's not very many people. I'll show you guys actual results from our clients campaign. But yeah, selecting all, to me, if you're sending it out to your database, you may as well hit everybody, but that's personal choice. Then you definitely want to track clicks. Are people clicking on these buttons that you have? Are they clicking on learning more, visit website, or the interest rates that we were trying to hook them with, right? So those are really good. Automate adding tags on contacts depending on how they interact with your campaign. This is one step further, but I'll explain what it means. Is more like if Jane Doe clicks on lock on this right now, do you want to send her another email after she does that saying like, hey, how's it going? Like, are you interested in rates? You can automate what happens next after Jane Doe does something in your campaign. So a little bit more complex, but really cool if you're trying to build out like a vision for your campaign. You're like, I want to send this email, and if Jane Doe clicks on the interest rates, I want to send her this update or this email or a text message. So you can automate what happens next. Okay. And then if you do schedule now, the one thing I'll have to say is this says review and send. It's just send. Okay, so if there is no review past this stage, it actually will just send off to your entire database. If you schedule, it will schedule it, review and schedule, and then it'll just sit in your database until it's ready to go out. Okay, so any questions on that before I show you guys the analytics? Easy peasy.
Does it have a, so, do you, like, so in MailChimp, sorry, I only have one reference point. So,
yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
So in reference, so I've been sending out the like one-to-many style emails, right? Like that are like text-based. And then it's funny because the first one I sent out seemed so realistic. People were like literally writing me emails.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Does that function still work with with your program? Can you do that?
What do you mean, like just the version of the, sorry, so explain a little bit more about like what you did. Like, was it just text-based? Is that kind of what you're saying, or?
Yeah, it was just text-based, and it was like just using live tags. I don't know if that's the proper term, but that's the term from over there.
Okay, okay.
So like first name and like blah, 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 and, you know, you just do those kinds of things. And then they would literally hit reply to, and then it would actually come to my proper email.
Yes. Yeah. If they reply here, as long as you're connected properly, it will go to your email. And then I'll show you, instead of sending a newsletter, what I think you're explaining, and you can tell me if I'm on the right track or not. Okay. So this is an example of one of our clients' accounts. So I went in to her email campaigns, and just showed we had a folder called Bank of Canada because we've created that folder. And now you can see just kind of limited statistics here. And then what happens? So 100% processed, 78% delivered. Skipped just means like they didn't have an email or something happened, and 20% error. So now you can actually load into this and figure it out a little bit more. We got to go back in time here because that was December. What's going on? I'm still in January. Confirm. Why aren't you changing? Oh, I think it wants me to pick when was it? Was it the 17th, 18th? I don't even remember when the Bank of Canada was. 11th. Just watch me struggle through this. I just want this date. Thank you. Let's do this, confirm. Okay, so and then you can see the open and then the click rate as well. So you can change that from statistics to click rates. You can see hard bounces, unsubscribed, skipped, that kind of stuff. And if you want to, you can kind of dig into that a little bit further. Another spot to see statistics. I'm going to jump out of email services. And then here, there's email analytics, and that really just does show you, again, this one is based on dates, but if you wanted to do like your entire year to see what was going on, then you can see like kind of a bigger overview of your accounts. Sorry, this bubble is in the way. And then kind of break into them a little bit further again. Right, if it was delivered, if it was opened, that kind of stuff. And then what was I going to show you, Matt? Let me go back to essentials. If you mean, so did you mean that it kind of looked less like a newsletter? Like it was just, oh, I think you're muted.
Looks just like a newsletter, and literally people were, I'd be like, hey, it'd be nice to catch up, or blah, 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 or what do you have going on? Happy to 25. And people would be like, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'd be like, okay. I'm like, yeah. But it would come dressed like an email. So you know how like when a newsletter goes out, a lot of time it's a weird reply to, or it's like a no reply, right? And things like that. So do you have that option to make it so it goes from a newsletter into whatever?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you go, the reply to will be your email, because when you set up your account with us, we tend to do a dedicated subdomain, it's called, for your emails to get them so that they land in the inbox more than spam is kind of the goal. So when you do that they're kind of linked together because you've linked, let's say, your Gmail to the software as well. So when they do reply, it should go, where's the campaigns we're doing? So in here, preview, that's not what I wanted. Okay, right here. So sender email. So you can set it so that it's like a reply to address or specific email. Like this is who it's coming from, and set custom reply to. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I want it to come to me and not from
not your subdomain.
Like even the display, like the subdomain can still be the subdomain, but even if I can change it to my name, anyway, so it displays.
Yeah, we'll
have
to maybe talk offline about it and then figure out exactly what you're looking for, and then I'm sure it's possible. And then the other thing, if you're wanting to send like a one-to-many, kind of like you mentioned, instead of the newsletter format, what we suggest is like kind of select all your contacts. This part here is a little bit hidden. See how it says 20 records? Then there's this 421 to select all. And then from here, you can send an email as well. And what's nice about this process versus the newsletter, especially if you don't want it to look like a newsletter, then you can pick the templates that I have already for you, or you can type, like you said, hey, it's me, blah, blah, blah. This is what I have to say, email me back kind of thing. And then it will pull in your, when you got onboarded, Bon, what he usually does is he takes a picture of your email signature from like when you emailed us, and he adds it to here so that it looks identical to your email. So then when they reply to you, like you said, they are actually replying to you. But this is a great way to do that one-to-many approach. It's basically called a bulk action. So you can say like updating, sorry, my dog has a hairball. Updating contacts on Bank of Canada decision. And then you would send the email. And what's nice about the bulk action is it kind of keeps track of like what just happened. So for example, if I go into, let me go into my broker.
Just so you know, we can't see your screen.
Oh my God, guys. It's me, it's my fault. Okay. Entire screen, share, there you go. And let's go back to here. Okay, so then from here, Matt, you go to your contacts, select all, and then you make sure that it's all records. See this 20 and then this 421? That's important. It's kind of, to me, that's kind of hidden. So I hit select all and then this little email button. And then the email button will say, okay, to proceed. You're like, yep, you can pick any of my templates that I have in here because I have a lot, as you can see, or you can create your own. So who's it from which email, which subject line, and then this will look more like a text email. Like it won't look formatted like the newsletter I just showed you. It'll look like it literally came from your inbox, right? So that honestly is how I've designed most of, not the newsletter I just showed you, but in the drip campaigns, I make it look like it came from an inbox rather than a newsletter, because I think that it increases the conversion rate. But a newsletter is nice when your clients expect a monthly newsletter. It's nice for it to look a little bit fancier. But here you would just type in what you want, and then yeah, we basically add an action here, which means like you're telling the system what you're doing so that when you track this bulk action later, you're like, oh, this is my Bank of Canada one. You know what you were doing in that sense. And then you go into your bulk actions and it'll give you kind of a summary of what's going on here. This was all bulk delete, but let's say this was an email, you'd be able to see the statistics and click into them as well. So if you wanted to see, this wasn't an email, but if this was an email, in this case, Matt, it would show open and that kind of stuff. You'd be able to click and see. So I don't think, to be honest, I'm not sure if it's as robust as MailChimp, because that's like MailChimp's jam, right? Like that's what they do. But it definitely has a lot of features. I personally, I love newsletters, but I love sending out text messages more. They land in people's hands instead, right? So you do the same concept with the one-to-many, select all records, select everyone, or maybe you only wanted to select your realtors. You could do that too. There's a filter right here to select, like if you really want to break it down. Like you could even pick, if you wanted to, you could even pick like your Club 100 people, because you're like, you know what, these people are in this source type, this whatever, like it has literally every way for you to this pipeline, and then you'd pick is Club 100, and then you know you're just going to send them this update. And then from here, I really like the text message, so it's kind of hidden because I messed with the colors, but SMS, and then okay to proceed. You want to send it by X number because maybe you have multiple numbers in your account. Then you send this text message. There's some templates in here, but again, if you want to go from there, there's the little tags if you want to add, hey, contact, first name, and all that. You want to add an attachment or an emoji. Send all at once, schedule time, and send in drip mode. Matt, this has a lot to do with what you messaged me earlier about. This is important in both email and text message. Text message doesn't really have like a spam, right? But emails that are our team already does this for you if you send out mass campaigns, and it's important to do, like, especially if you know you're going to send a Bank of Canada email, you probably want to start warming up emails beforehand. So you go send in drip mode, and then that way you can do X amount of people per day, per hour, per minute kind of thing. Go ahead.
So does it go out like singularly? Like, so it says, so it basically sends, say I have 441 people on my list. Does
Yeah.
it send 441 emails, or does it send one to everybody? Like you just, or it's just a
No, it's
pop-in?
444 emails. Yeah, it's all
Oh,
separate.
excellent. Awesome. Okay.
And then
That's what I was-
to really figure out, you're like, oh, did that email actually go out to so-and-so? Obviously, you'd go to your bulk actions, but it's the inbox is always a great way to see what's going on. Because now you can click on that contact and you can go through and see what's been emailed, what's happened with them. So you can be like, oh, there you go. And then with emails, you can actually see a little, here, if I don't go, I think the Club 100 has more emails in it because the Essentials is kind of our testing one. See the little opened? So let's say this was your, Sam P was your realtor and you're like, did he get my email? You're like, yeah, he did. So you can check to see what the email said, when it was sent out, and if it was opened. And if it's delivered, it's blue, and it'll, when you hover over, it says delivered. So you can see your text message here, inbound calls, voicemails left. Like, it really does break down everything you've done with that contact. So yeah, it sends a separate email to answer your question. And if you drip mode it, then it will do, let's say, an example of that is I want to send 10 emails every hour, then it will just send 10 emails every hour. So what we usually do is it's per day, and then our team tries to separate that based on your list. Like a contact list of 400, you do want to warm up. So, okay. Which I think you're familiar with that, but yeah, you definitely want to ask the team. And something you want to consider before you do a bulk action, because you're putting in the effort to creating a newsletter or something like that, you want it to land in their inbox. And if you don't warm up emails, then essentially you're risking low open rates and future low open rates, because you've kind of kicked yourself in the foot. Does that make sense?
Yes, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Questions on that same note. This essentially replaced, okay, I'm going to mess this up, but there's like a program that's got, because there was a debate whether you should be sending your realtor videos in an email or as a newsletter. And so people were, who do it by email, were using a program that Scott promotes, YAMP or YAM or...
Yeah, YAM, yeah.
Is that the same thing?
YAM is honestly like a spreadsheet with a little bit. Yeah, and it's actually really good. And I used it when I first started, or like joined Bricks as well, because I had never heard of it. But honestly, I think people have said they've had great open rates and stuff, and it's free. So I think that's why a lot of people use it. However, I don't know the theory, like the answer to the theory like that you're saying, because that is two options, right? Like we do have in the Essentials, as long as you record the videos, we have 52-week campaign, right? Like, so it could go out every Friday for you if you want to. So under automations, there's one that's called, what am I trying to think of right now? The drip campaign. I'm wondering where this lives. Videos. Yeah, so drip campaign weekly videos. So if you see 1 to 10, so this is week 1 to 10 all the way to week 52. They separate it because the workflows start to glitch after a while. So what you can see here is I have this script somewhere in my Google. So when people say, yeah, I want to do this video, and we were planning on actually doing like a team meeting where we block out 3 hours and we just kind of say, you know what, we're all going to crush half our videos today. And really get, and that way you're like, okay, I don't have to send out videos for the next 26 weeks. So we were thinking of doing that sometime next week. I just have to find like a 3-hour time block. But basically what this is you add the tag weekly video to your contacts. So maybe you select all and add the tag. I wouldn't do it now because there's no videos in there. But this one's called How Sellers Can Lower Their Penalties. And then when you go into edit, and if you give us the videos, the team will update this for you. Like you don't have to go and mess around with the automations, but this is what the builder looks like. And then this is obviously when we go preview, this is just a placeholder, but it's very quick. Hey, all I'm here to talk about today is mortgage penalties, and how sellers can lower them. And then your video gets replaced there. Okay. And then don't hesitate to reach out. So that way it's more like, boom, here's some value. See you next week. Instead of like a long email, like a traditional drip campaign, right? Because I have drip campaigns too, where it's all text, but the video really does help with engagement. So as long as you record, so for example, this one, it waits 30 days. If the contact didn't open it, it actually sends it again 30 days later, the exact same one, but with a different subject line. So that just increases the longevity of the drip campaign, because now all of a sudden you're retargeting those unopened ones again a month later to do that. These should be a week though. I don't know why they're 30 days. Wait 30 days, wait 1 day. Yeah, we got to change that because they're weekly. There should be 7 days. So I'll talk to Vanessa about that. But essentially this is the exact same. And then the next one is number 2. This one says why CMHC protects the lender, not you. And then it goes out to kind of hope all is well. Today I'm talking about mortgage insurance and whether it's something you should consider. We don't give them a ton of information. It's more like you need to watch the video to see what's going on, right? So again, when you open that, your video would go here and then it would fire out once a week. Does that kind of make sense? So this would be more of an email, Matt, but the other one would be like that we did where we launched a campaign. That's more of a newsletter. So I'll do some research to see what that looks like, because I've never heard that. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that one works better than the other, right? But yeah, it's hard to say. There's so many ways to send emails, and there's more ways for us to get into the spam folder. So, but Kelly, all dolled up. Woo.
Well, I was getting ready while you were chit-chatting, so
Perfect.
you got ready with me, you traveled with me, and well, holy shit, we're at the office at 8:45.
There we go. I love it. But yeah, any questions on that, guys? That was a 10-minute tech tip that turned into 30, 40 minutes, but I think it was well worth it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, no problem. Matt, you still have that look on your face, like what's going on?
No, it's all good. I just I think most of my newsletters and stuff, I'm going to be doing that kind of one-to-many kind of look. So
Yeah.
basically, you would only do the drip style bulk actions, correct? Essentially.
I would for your first, yeah.
Yes.
For example, like I'll give you an example for the text message or the emails. With Luke's account, he has about 10,000 people. So to get through his account took us almost 2 weeks to drip through. Once you get to, but that's what's, if you're 400, you're maybe a few days, right? Which is fine. I would talk to Vanessa if I were you about it. Be like, hey, what do I do here? It's very important to me that I land in the inbox, as it is to everyone, but she can kind of explain what they do. But then that way you're prepared for the Bank of Canada email next week. So maybe you come out with maybe an email today that you start that says, here's my new business number or something like that, just something generic that you can send out. And then that way, when you're going through, eventually when you're done warming up, you don't have to do that every time. You can fire out to 10,000 people at once if you want to. So The warm up is only essentially once. And I didn't realize that until Vanessa joined us, but she was like, it's a very important step. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, easy peasy, guys. We'll talk to you next week. And then for the Bank of Canada, we usually do send out our version of the newsletter. So just look for that email, and there's a button to click to just import it into your account. So we don't push it to your account. We just let people who want to use it, and go from there. Because as you've seen, your account is already pretty overwhelmed with 1,000 templates. So take them or leave them kind of thing.
Or just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
Tell you,
run.
I should have messaged you. I'll be in town today and I'll be kind of floating around for a bit. Maybe I'll pop by your office or something.
Yeah, more than welcome. Please come on in.
Today or
It's,
next week. I got to go back in on Monday too.
Yeah, come on in. I do have a meeting at 9, but
Oh, I
any
won't be there by then.
with cameras on, hence why I'm
And so, yeah, I know.
it looks like Matt popped off. Are we still live?
No, I took us off Insta. Yeah.
Okay, just a quick question. I